do think there is one thing that Trump has achieved. And this is an objective that we don't talk about enough because it sounds political. But I think the one objective that really matters to Donald Trump is something he has achieved, which is, guess what? We're not talking about Jeffrey Epstein. You know, we'll talk about Todd Blanche. We'll talk about Iran today. We're not talking about the one thing that has hurt Trump with his base. So why would he break this promise that he has made for years, that he will start no wars? That, to me, is the obvious answer. And Trump actually is getting that.
I do want to say that here on Deadline, on the weeknight, which I am on most nights, we have continued to follow that story because I agree with you. We need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. And the problem is, as you know, if one thing becomes a distraction, everything's a distraction. He is actually able to pull off multiple things at the same time. But I think it also gets to this point, General Hertling, about the necessity for clarity and how in the past, when presidents have taken us into war, they have at a minimum communicated. They have sold that war to the American people. That is not what this president is doing, and that is particularly harmful, as you write this week in The Bulwark, to America's soldiers. This is what you write. Soldiers can absorb difficult news. They can endure hardship, separation, and danger far longer than most people imagine, as long as the mission is clear and they know all the sacrifice is worth it. That's why comments from senior leaders matter. The president spoke vaguely about a completion, but failed to answer the questions every soldier eventually asks. What are we trying to achieve? How will we know when we have achieved it? And when are we done? Without answers to those questions, deployments begin to feel indefinite. If you are a service member right now, day 100 of this war, what are you thinking? How is morale?
Well, the one piece you didn't read in that article I wrote, Alicia, is the fact that when he was asked by Kristen Welker about if he would bring troops home from the Middle East, his answer was pretty striking to me. It says, it cost us very little to keep them there. But I think then he said, I think we'll keep them there until such time as we have a completion. Okay, that's great. From a soldier's perspective, that is cringeworthy. I've experienced this in Iraq when we were extended for a 3-month tour beyond our 12 months in 2004. And it was very difficult to tell not only our soldiers who were expecting to go home, and in fact, a third of our soldiers were already home and we had to bring them back when we were extended. But I had to go back to Germany and talk to family members and explain to them why they were being sent back and why the soldiers that were still there had to stay a little bit longer. This is very difficult for a commander-in-chief just to kind of wave this off as no big deal. I'm going to keep 50,000 forces in the Middle East and we're not sure what we're going to do next. Again, I'll comment on what you said earlier about the campaign plan. We are losing this war, as Congressman Moulton just said. We are best going to get a draw out of it. It could have been so much different if the president had listened to his advisors, understood the application of kinetic activity as well as diplomatic and economic sources, but that didn't happen. He believes that the military can solve all problems, and unfortunately, if that's all you're using, it becomes a hammer, but every problem isn't a nail.
Professor Van Landingham, part of the reason I wanted to make sure that you were involved in this conversation is because thinking about the piece that General Hertling wrote about what the lack of clarity means to members of the armed service, I also started thinking about all of the JAG officers, all of the people who are responsible for signing off on the action